Some interesting testimony on Capitol Hill today, some of which we will get to in a moment. What's interesting to me in part, ladies and gentlemen, by the way, welcome. What's interesting to me in part is Sally Yates, the acting Attorney General, had been the politically appointed Deputy Attorney General under Barack Obama, said repeatedly that she was very concerned about President Trump's National Security Advisor, Michael Flynn, because she and DOJ knew he wasn't being forthright with the Vice President of the United States, and they feared he could be blackmailed. That is, they feared he could be blackmailed because the discussion with the Russian ambassador was somewhat more extensive. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is very interesting to me. So the Justice Department was in fact informed about the unmasking of Flynn's name. See, there's different items that I want to focus on here, aspects to it. Was in fact informed about the unmasking of Lieutenant General Michael Flynn in a report through incidental collection of information when they were surveilling the Russian ambassador. That information, as you know, went to several departments and agencies, including, apparently, the Justice Department. Went all the way up to the Attorney General of the United States. All the way up to the Attorney General of the United States. I don't quite understand why some of the questions to this Sally Yates came to such a sudden stop. I mean, there's certain questions I would like to ask her. Did she inform the President of the United States and so forth? And maybe that was asked. I didn't pick it up. I have to admit I wasn't watching it all day. But this leaked out, and it's a felony. And we can't have people doing that. I'm not saying Yates did it. Could have come from the Department of Justice. Apparently a lot of people over there knew about it. Could have come out of the old NSC. Apparently a lot of people over there knew about it. The CIA, the NSA. Who knows? But it is interesting. She says she warned the President's counsel, among others. And the President's counsel, McGahn, was, trying to get to the bottom of it so he could properly inform the President. He comes off quite well. But this Sally Yates is obviously a political animal. I thought Lindsey Graham asked some very good questions. Like this. Let's go to cut 17, Mr. Producer. Go.
Now, about surveillance. This is very important. An American citizen cannot be surveilled in the United States for colluding with a foreign government unless you have a warrant. Is that a true statement of the law?
That's right.
Is it fair to say that incidental collection occurs even in the United States?
That's correct as well, yes.
Okay, so there's two situations that we would have found out what General Flynn said to the Russian ambassador. If there was a FISA warrant focused on him, was there?
Yes.
There? Yes, either one of you.
Again, I think I'm not going to answer whether there was a FISA warrant, nor am I even going to talk about whether General Flynn was talking to the Russians.
Okay.
Well, I have to, obviously, I'm going to go on with...
Well, if he wasn't talking to the Russians, we've had a hearing for no good reason. So clearly he's talking to the Russians, and we know about it. So if there is no FISA warrant, I'm going to find out about this, by the way. The other way that we know what he was talking about the Russian, if he was incidentally surveilled. So those are the two options. Do we know who unmasked the conversation between the Russian ambassador and General Flynn? Was there unmasking in this situation?
Are you looking at me?
Yes, sir.
I don't know.
Do you, Ms. Yates?
I can't speak to this specific situation, but can I try to clarify one point on this unmasking thing?
Very quickly.
Okay, I'll try to do it quickly. As a consumer of intelligence, for example, I would receive intelligence reports from various agencies.
I get that, no.
Now, oftentimes the names are already unmasked by the intelligence agency itself.
The bottom line here is I want to know how it got to the Washington Post. Somebody had to have access to the information, and they gave it to the Washington Post. Is that a fair statement?
That's right. That's what it looks like to me.
Is that right, General Clapper?
Yes.
And it was neither one of you did it?
That's right.
That's right.
How many people can request unmasking of an American citizen in our government, General Clapper? How many?
I don't have an exact number. It's, I think, fairly limited because it's normally fairly high-level officials.
How did you know that General Flynn was talking to the Russians? Who told you?
And I can't reveal that in an open setting. But what
Wait a minute. Whoa. She can't reveal that in an open setting. I thought she would have gotten the report that was circulated to the departments and agencies where Flynn's name was unmasked as a matter of routine, or somebody would have referred it over to the Justice Department. Well, what is it that she can't tell in an open setting? This suggests to me that she had other discussions as well about what was in that report. She and probably certain of her subordinates over there at the Department of Justice, as an old Justice Department employee myself. Go ahead, Mr. Producer.
To say is that oftentimes we receive intelligence reports where the name of the American citizen is already unmasked, and it's unmasked by the intel agency because not based on anybody's request, but because the name of that citizen is essential.
Is that the situation here?
I can't, Senator, I cannot.
Thank you. My 4 minutes is up.
Actually, it can, because as I was listening to the hearing you put it together, she said she has never asked to unmask anybody. Okay? So his name was unmasked. His name was gathered probably as part of incidental collection of information. The information was sent over to the Department of Justice, which has certain offices that deal with this sort of thing. It worked its way up the chain to the Attorney General, in this case the Acting Attorney General. She says she's warning the the Trump folks about Flynn because she's concerned he could be blackmailed because he wasn't telling everything to the Vice President. Blackmailed for what? He'd be blackmailed for what? That he wasn't telling everything to the Vice President. What is everything? I'm not a special pleader for Flynn. On the other hand, I'm not prepared to take a lieutenant general and throw him over the cliff so easily. If he did something wrong, he did something wrong. I just don't see it yet. Well, Mark, he got paid by Russian TV. Larry King gets paid by Russian TV. Mr. Producer, will you find the hosts on Russian TV? I think there's some Americans, liberals, who are hosts on Russian TV. Or he gave a speech to Russian TV. I don't know. But when you consider how the Democrats have worked with the Russians over the decades, I mean, this looks like small potatoes to me. It really does. Exactly what did Michael Flynn say to the Russian ambassador? Did he reveal national security secrets? Not that I'm aware of. Did he collude on the election? Not that I'm aware of. Well, what did he do? What did he say exactly? I'm quite serious about this. And, of course, we don't really know. This stuff just keeps floating around and floating around and floating around, and the guy is really in no position to defend himself. Again, I don't talk to him, but it just seems a little odd to me. More on the hearing. Sally Yates. Cut 12, Mr. Producer. Go.
So I told them again that there were...
Meaning the White House. Meaning she told them the White House. Go ahead.
So I told them again that there were a number of press accounts of statements that have been made by the Vice President and other high-ranking White House officials about General Flynn's conduct that we knew to be untrue. And we told them how we knew that how we had this information, how we had acquired it, and how we knew that it was untrue. And we walked the White House counsel, who also had an associate there with him, through General Flynn's underlying conduct, the contents of which I obviously cannot go through with you today because it's classified. But we took them through in a fair amount of detail of the underlying conduct, what General Flynn had done, and then we walked through the various press accounts and how it had been falsely reported.
Cut 13.
And additionally, that we weren't the only ones that knew all of this, that the Russians also knew about what General Flynn had done, and the Russians also knew...
Let's stop. What General Flynn, what did he do? Well, I can't tell you. I can't think of a worse situation to be an American citizen. Quite frankly, again, I don't know what he did. So let's put that aside. I can't think of a worse situation than to be told nationally that you obviously did something. We don't know what it is, but man, it must have been bad. Because this lady's testifying right now, and she's saying, I told him, the White House counsel and his associate what he did, and I told this one what he did, and that one what he did, and he could be blackmailed for it. And the guy can't speak, the Lieutenant General Flynn. And he can't speak because he's being given wise counsel. Wise counsel, because this is now a public relations battle, and he's got a legal battle on his hands. Go ahead.
General Flynn had misled the vice president and others, because in the media accounts it was clear from the vice president and others that they were repeating what General Flynn had told them, and that this was a problem, because not only did we believe that the Russians knew this, but that they likely had proof of this information. And that created a compromise situation, a situation
all I can tell you, folks, is the initial leak said that the sanctions on Russia were brought up, but that Flynn wasn't negotiating or doing anything of the sort. So I'm thinking, well, what exactly took place here? This guy's a retired lieutenant general. What took place here? Cut 14, go.
And the scenario that you were concerned about was that you were seeing all these statements.
This is the phony Senator Sheldon Whitehouse who would not allow Susan Rice to testify. Now I want you to keep that in mind. Susan Rice should have and was supposed to testify at this hearing and refused. Go ahead.
And the scenario that you were concerned about was that you were seeing all these statements coming from the White House that were inconsistent with what you knew. You presumed that the White House was being truthful, which meant that Flynn was misleading them.
This is how you destroy somebody. Again, it'll all come out in some way, someday, but this is how you do it. You and I are sitting here dumbfounded. But you're left with the impression, oh, this guy must have leaked confidential information. Maybe National said, this guy must have really done something horrific. We don't know what he told the Russians. You know, this general, he must be a Benedict Arnold. We don't know what the hell. Look at this. They can't tell us what it is, but they know it wasn't the truth, and he could be blackmailed. And she ran to and she ran to the White House, and she told him again, and then this and then that. And I go, whoa. I'm telling you, folks, I've seen stuff like this before. The liberals used to call these McCarthy tactics. It's like Trump. We are to believe that Trump is in bed with Vladimir Putin. They have no evidence of this whatsoever, and yet for months it goes on and on and on and on. Don't you think, folks, since somebody leaked the identity of Michael Flynn, that they would have leaked exactly what he said that was so horrendous? And maybe it was. I don't know. We're in secret here. All we're being told is what they want to tell us. That he could be blackmailed? Really? Well, who are the anonymous sources who leaked this to the Washington Post? Cut 15, go.
Have either of you ever been an anonymous source in a news report about matters relating to Mr. Trump, his associates, or Russians' attempt to meddle in the election?
No.
Absolutely not.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Well, there they are. They're under oath. I'll be right back.
Mike Levin.